I think this is the most corrupt presidency in U.S. history. With the money they are raking in with the NFTs and the meme coin. I mean, it is so blatant, it's right in front of our eyes. I don't care about anything but saving the country.
He came in on the promise of ending the conflict in Ukraine.
In one day.
In one day. Likewise with Israel and Gaza, that hasn't been settled yet. Why do you think that is?
You may not have noticed this. Trump is an exaggerator.
Yeah, yeah, I've got glimpses of that.
It is historically part of Russia. I am not defending him. He invaded the country.
Not all of Ukraine's historically part of Russia, but fine. I'm from Russia, so. You said you wouldn't vote for him because he's Indian.
Yeah, for president. Why is my country the only country that is supposed to have, oh no, anybody can run our country?
Had an Indian prime minister.
Yeah, I don't think it went that well.
Didn't go well, but it wasn't because he was Indian. Relax, relax, this is not an ad. I just wanted to let you know that you can watch this video without any advertising at all. No interruptions, no pop-ups, nothing. Just go to triggerpod.co.uk or click the link below and join thousands of our supporters who watch all our interviews with exclusive bonus content ad-free. And Coulter, welcome to TRIGGERnometry.
Thank you, it's so great to be here.
It's great to have you. You're on a little tour of the UK, so we thought we'd get you in and see what you make of it. How do you feel? What have you made of it so far?
Well, I'm technically just on vacation because I love London. Amazing city. It's so fabulous, especially coming from New York. And then just dropped in on some of my right-wing friends like you.
Well, we identify as politically non-binary.
Okay, that just so you know, that's right-wing.
It is now. That's what everyone thinks.
Yeah. In America, that's right-wing.
Well, America is very binary. You're like either this or you're that.
Well, Twitter, look at Twitter. Elon just says, I'm not going to censor anybody. Right-wing nut, Nazi.
In the UK, we have more of a spectrum, is what I'm saying. So
no, it's
people
more
like us
than that.
exist
You
here.
have a lot of conservative media. It's stunning to me.
Like what? The Spectator, the Telegraph,
The Sun.
the Sun.
The Mail, the Express.
Yes,
The Express
thank
is
you.
not right wing.
The Express is...
Wait, no, sorry, I've confused them with the Daily Mirror. No, fair.
And a lot of the podcasts, it seems to me, maybe it's just the ones I listen to and I know.
Yeah.
The only TV show I've always, when I've been in London before, sometimes I'd watch the TV just to see, to prove to myself once again that British people are incapable of boredom. Oh my gosh, it's like watching paint dry. But not ITV. That's actually, so yeah, okay, you have BBC, but it's like, about a sheep or something.
You're watching
really
a TV show
count?
about a sheep.
Well, I'm making that up. It was probably more boring than that, to be honest. But ITV, you kind of actually get some news. So I would consider that the only news station.
Yeah.
So what have you made of your time in the UK? Been here for a couple of weeks. You're leaving tomorrow. What do you think about it?
It's so fabulous. I can't wait to come back. I love London so much. It's beautiful. And on the drive up here, which is... I think in Scotland.
Yeah, we're in Scotland now, remember.
I went through a few, probably what you guys, and compared to the areas where I've been, seemed a little bit sketchy, i.e. people obviously on drugs, weird outfits, a lot of tattoos, a little more garbage. And still, in the midst of the sketchy areas, just a beautiful old pub and the flowers in the window boxes and beautiful streets. Even your sketchy areas are beautiful.
Well, it's kind of like New York, right? Where you live, you got, the people, like every time we go to New York, there's someone lying face down on the pavement or...
Oh no, I think we are so much worse.
Really?
Oh, New Yorkers, this is the heaven. Oh my gosh, you are so much better off. I mean, being able to walk around at night, sometimes I don't have far to go and I'll walk home from dinner. Under Giuliani and Bloomberg, Republican mayors dominated New York for 20 years, and it was so safe. It was paradise. I used to think New York is the greatest city in the world, but it has just gone so much to hell right now. Homeless people. I talked to a lot of British people, but a friend of my friend is like the queen of Hermes and has a million Hermes boxes or bags and the Birkins and everything else. And they were both telling me, and I don't know, maybe you'll tell me this is exaggerated, that she absolutely cannot carry them in London because they get stolen by the moped guys. I was warned before coming here and by everyone I've run into since being here that I can't wear a watch, which was really annoying. And I told her she ought to come to New York and she can totally walk around with a Birkin bag in New York. She might get raped on the subway. She could be pushed in front of a subway.
But she can still wear the bag, though.
She could be knocked out. But our criminals just want to do like random heinous violence. They have no plan. Let's get that Rolex.
Yeah.
Well, so just to fill that out with detail a little bit, you can wear a watch, just not the ones that you have, Anne. You can wear a £20 watch, you'll be fine.
Will they be able to distinguish?
Usually, yeah. Well, the guys who rob watches know what they're looking for.
Excellent.
And that genuinely is true in that people don't wear nice watches around London.
Right.
For the
Well, I've
most
been
part.
counting on that with my 10-year-old iPhone because that's the other thing they say, you know, don't be a dork tourist while you're on, and they'll snatch it. And I'm hoping they'll look over, oh, we don't even want that one.
But, and your career has been very interesting because you've been very, very pro-Trump. 2016, then you were one of the first people to come out against Trump because you feel he betrayed the MAGA agenda. How do you feel about Trump now?
I'm finally getting the Trump I voted for.
What does that mean?
I can't believe it took him 8 years to actually do this stuff. I mean, in my defense, and to attack everyone, which you aren't asking, but when I have Americans MAGA-based, the cultists come up to me and say, oh, why have you turned against Trump? I mean, they're just utterly unprincipled. So, okay, they're okay with the policies of Jeb Bush. I think they'd be fine with the policies of Hillary as long as it's the host of The Apprentice. So if you're someone who didn't vote for Trump because of his personality, but voted for him despite his personality, which is me and all of my friends, no, he didn't. He governed like a standard Republican, cut taxes and screw the working class.
And so how is this incarnation of Trump different from the previous one?
Many, many ways. Most important thing, 100% immigration. He did immediately do the executive orders on immigration that he promised he would do the first time on anchor babies. Pregnant Mexican runs across the border, drops a baby. Oh, the baby's an American citizen, which isn't the law. It's not a court ruling. It's just been the practice. It's stupid. He can end it with an executive order. For 4 years, he never did that first term. He did that like day one. He's done a lot of stuff sending out the ICE agents, putting the right people in charge of ICE, like this guy, Tom Homan, who's just such a hard ass. He finally put Stephen Miller, originally his only policy advisor, who is rock solid on immigration. He's been in charge of the immigration policies now. And in the big, beautiful bill, I don't know if you heard about it, but it's the reason Trump was insisting on a big, beautiful bill is you basically get one shot as president to get Congress. I mean, the Democrats are doing so badly, maybe this will prove not to be true, but historically, the president's party loses seats in the midterm. So you kind of have to anticipate that and get everything you need done in the first 2 years. So he wanted to, dump everything in the big, beautiful bill. And when I was reading, the full analysis in the New York Times, they're starting with all the other provisions. And on that, Elon and Trump had a little tiff. And I'm totally with Elon. These idiot Republicans will not cut spending. They won't. And I'm just enraged that they won't cut spending. And it's all utterly useless stuff. It's the government trying to figure out how to get Ann to pay more and make my life worse. So I'm going through section by section. And the last section they describe is immigration. Billions of dollars for ICE. Billions of dollars to finally build the wall. And I thought, okay, I'm for it. Love it now.
And why is it that nobody can cut spending?
Because the people who benefit from the spending, you're taxing. I worked for the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he was a very junior senator, so we all had to do all kinds of work. So at first, even I had to meet with constituents until they noticed that the senators' ratings would plummet every time I so got off that task. But I was at the point where I was going to leap across the table and spray them with mace, because they all have the same argument for their dumbass program, which is this costs every American less than the cost of a postage stamp. Well, yeah, there are a lot of Americans, and you're all saying that. And the only programs that are more than that are the medical stuff, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, the Ponzi scheme, retirement program. So we can't touch those. And then there are a million other programs that, yeah, it costs each American the cost of a postage stamp, but only adults pay taxes, and only half of adults pay taxes, so it's a little more than a postage stamp. In any event, everyone who benefits from one of these stupid programs, it's their world. It is everything. They are single-issue voters. Are you going to keep my stupid program for my stupid job going? Whereas, how are you going to gin up, the American people? We're going to cut this small program you've never heard of, or maybe a big program you've never heard of. There was one, I'll just use this as an example, because I'll never forget it. So when Reagan was president, we were winning the Cold War, and part of that was, military buildup. So there are a lot of new military bases around the country. And obviously, members of the military have children. So they had to set up schools on the military bases. So they were federal grammar schools. And it's a dumb name for it, but it was called Impact Aid. Okay, so we win the Cold War, yay. And a lot of we saved so much money. We get to cut way back on defense. The military bases are gone. They've gone off to get other jobs. The military bases are empty. The schools are still getting money. And I had to get the people whose entire salary was working for Impact Aid, i.e. schools throughout the nation, where there are no students. Mm-hmm. And their argument? It costs every American less than the cost of a postage stamp.
But to me, the issue of spending is actually existential for America.
Yes.
For our country as well, it's the same.
Yeah, we're broke. We are broke. And I don't think people realize that, or the long-term implications of that. So when Elon had his meltdown, and the way that he did it, in the words of Chris Rock, I don't agree, but I understand.
I agree. I agree and I understand personally.
Yeah.
He's right on the issue, right? But I also think you're right in the sense that this is why I asked you why it's happening, because you gave a very American answer because you're talking about America. That's fair enough. But actually, this is a problem across the entire Western world. And part of it, I think, is what you said, which is just people really, they're so used to having everything paid for by the government. They only really care about, are you going to take care of this thing that I care about?
Yes.
And if you don't, I'm never voting for you. Well, if no one ever wants to sacrifice a little bit to reduce overall spending, then it's debt and deficit all the way down.
Yes. That's why Doge was so great. I mean, they were going in, cutting stuff. I can't believe that we were paying for, it was basically just billions upon billions of dollars funding the left. It was stunning. And I don't know why Congress just couldn't, I don't know how much of this they did, but just enact all of the Doge cuts, because it's really, that was the Elon system. It was really all just recommendations. And same thing with Trump's executive orders. You need Congress to pass a law and make it a law.
Yeah. So what did you make of that falling out between Elon? Because we had a lot of these conversations immediately after the election, and actually just before as well, about the tech right and the MAGA right, with very different groupings. And that kind of fissure was almost inevitable, many people felt. How did you see it?
Other people predicted it. I didn't, because Trump sucks up to rich people. And he was very gentle with Elon. Everybody else. Sloppy Steve for Steve Bannon, and I forget what vicious attacks he had on Corey Lewandowski, just endless attacks on Jeff Sessions, his first attorney general. He's really, really nasty when someone has a crossword about him. Very solid ego. And so he was pretty gentle on Elon. And I think Elon was right, and I knew if he ever went to Washington, no one can work in Washington and not realize you could cut 90% of it, and most Americans wouldn't notice, except their taxes would go down. You could so easily cut just so much make work BS. And coming, when I worked for the Senate Judiciary Committee, I'd been coming from a law firm in New York, where I don't know if they do this here, but we have billable hours, where you actually, so horrifying. You actually have to account for your day, how much time you spent on each case. So no chit-chatting around the water cooler. Then you're staying an extra hour that day. And the difference in the intense work and being aware of how much you're working at a law firm versus government work, where 90% of the day is watching TV and chit-chatting around the water cooler. So, start with cutting all of that. So I figured someone as incredibly efficient and high IQ and productive as Elon and all the people who work for him would get to Washington and their heads would explode. So I'm not surprised his head exploded. And I agreed with him. But I mean, you can't blame Trump alone. It's the members of Congress. They have to get reelected, and they have people in their districts who are still making their entire salary from impact aid.
And that's a worrying thing, though, Anne, because like I said before, this is existential. If you don't deal with it, which no president has wanted to do for a very, very long time, what's going to happen is we're going to go bankrupt.
Yes. And I think in a way we're a little worse off than you are, because there's so much cockiness in the U.S. about, well, we're the world's reserve currency. Okay, but still, most of the money we're collecting in taxes is going to pay interest on the debt. Fantastic. What a deal. I think Doge is the model for how to do it. And you need someone, I don't know, with a personality like Trump, maybe JD, when he's president. It needs to be a big national movement. That's what Reagan did to cut taxes, which I was mad that Trump never did for the wall and immigration stuff. Reagan got a Democratic Congress to cut taxes. That's only half of it. Everybody likes that. You got to cut the spending. But he did it by giving a fireside address from the Oval Office. He had won in a landslide, speak to the people who voted for him. They agree with him. But you can't just count on each senator or congressman to be brave and vote against people in his district. It has to be a big national movement. Everybody's got to cut back. This is what's going to happen if we don't. And I think if you made it a national cause that you're cutting everything, because otherwise a cut is a reduction in the rate of growth. That's what they call a cut in Washington, and it's just never going to get done.
And it's so interesting to see, because it's become quite apparent to me that he isn't going to do that. But also his tenure is starting to look a little bit more wobbly, particularly with the Epstein thing. So let's talk about...
I don't know what that noise was, but someone's excited.
So what is going on with the Epstein thing? Does it have long-term implications for the Trump presidency? And where are the MAGA base on that at the moment?
Most of the MAGA base, God bless them, even the cultists, they want...
And sorry to interrupt so early. Who are the cultists? What are you talking about?
The ones who didn't care that he didn't build the wall.
So you think there's a big portion of Trump's following that see him as a cult leader, basically?
Shockingly, I did not think this when I wrote In Trump We Trust. I have a section on how nobody likes the guy for his personality. Of course they're voting for his policies. It was the basket of policies I've been waiting my whole life for a Republican to run on. I'm totally for the tariffs. Bring manufacturing back to the U.S. one way. Both Republicans and Democrats have screwed over the working and the middle class. No more stupid wars, and build the wall, deport illegals. And we couldn't get that. We couldn't get any of that from any Republican. So it was 100% the issues for me. But I mean, since then, I've noticed that, yeah, there's some people. It's enough that okay, I'm sympathetic to this, but it's enough that he really, really annoys the left. And I like that. Don't get me wrong. They've lost their minds. But anyway, what was I saying about the Trump cultists?
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. I'm just, you've used that term twice now, and I'm just trying to understand who you're talking about, basically, when you
certainly my friends and I would think most Americans would know what that means. It's not like something, I'm just saying that is not peculiar to me. There is, and actually the left depends on it, that, oh, Trump could do anything. He could do anything. They'll support him doing anything. Well, the first, and that's heavily been true, the first time, actually 2 times recently, the MAGA base has, at least for a while, differed from the Orange Man. One was the strike on Iran. A lot of the MAGA base opposed it. Now, the cultists very quickly came up with an excuse to support it and put a pin in that attack. And the other one is the Epstein stuff. And again, some of the cultists are coming up with an excuse. The thing I'd say about the MAGA base opposing the Iran attack, and I was one of them, it actually ended up not being so bad. And I think part of the reason I loved Trump's speech after he said, it's over, we have peace with Iran now, we're done, we just wanted to destroy the nuclear facilities, can't run the experiment twice. But I think if he hadn't gotten the pushback from the MAGA base, we might have troops and ships over there right now. And it might not, yes. Well, that's the way it's always gone.
Not under Trump. He's never put troops anywhere, right? When he destroyed ISIS, he just bombed them and left it there, right?
Yes.
So I think that's the difference.
But we do have troops all over the
But not because
world.
of Trump, right?
No, but he hasn't pulled them back. He didn't end Afghanistan. I mean, I hate to say it. Sorry, Biden's the one who ended Afghanistan. And on the Epstein thing, the excuse they're using is even crazier. The ones who said at first MAGA base, and this is not all of them, but some of the sort of prominent ones who want Trump to know.
Who are you talking about, Anne?
Not naming names.
Why not?
That's a good point. Okay, Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
How
have
do
they
they
done?
come up with BS excuses after saying one thing and then Trump totally blows them off and, oh, well, it's okay. So the Epstein excuse is Wall Street Journal had that absolutely repellent and completely believable page that Donald Trump wrote for Epstein's birthday book.
Yep.
And for those of you who are not familiar with it, so it's a drawing of a naked woman. It has this, just sort of sleazy, happy birthday and may every day be filled with secrets. And then he signs his name where the naked woman's pubic hair would be. So for one thing, I mean, this is not exactly out of character. You guys didn't know he was an utter vulgarian? You're just finding it out. He used to hang around with Jeffrey Epstein, dumped him long before I think the pedophilia stuff started. But he gave that, there was the Access Hollywood tape. He said it, he said it. A quote to the New Yorker on Jeffrey Epstein. And look, let me just say, I still wrote and stood by the book In Trump We Trust. I care about policy. But just imagine, and I'm not being a prude, imagine your fathers doing any of this, saying any of this. He isn't admitting to sexual assault because he said, if they let you. But the quote in the New Yorker on Epstein was, some say he loves beautiful women as much as I do, except a little on the younger side. Okay, Epstein, total pervert, and you're giving a quote like that and joshing about on the younger side. So put that in a box. Utter, complete vulgarian, not at all surprised by the sketch. Trump, as usual. It's so, oh my gosh, he's an idiot. Okay, say you're accused of raping a woman in Cleveland. What do you say? It was consensual. Mm-hmm. What does Trump say? I've never been in Cleveland. Well, okay, now all we need is evidence that you've been in Cleveland. Right. So what is his excuse on the birthday book thing, which he could have said, oh, I had an assistant write it. Jelaine, the co-conspirator with Epstein, she wrote it for us. Nobody was ever supposed to see it. She told me to do it this way. That I would believe. But no, he says, I never do drawings. And then the next day, they produce like 1 million drawings by him. They've been sold at auction. And by the way, they were pretty good. He's actually very talented.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is if Trump is watching, this is the bit where he's back in love with that. Oh, she said I'm a good, I'm good at drawing.
That might do it.
Yeah. So why do you think that we've had people on to talk about this a little bit. Why do you think these documents are not being released? Why do you think the investigation isn't fully transparent?
I think it's 100% Trump. It's obviously not head of the FBI and his assistant. It's not Kash Patel. It's not Dan Bongino. It's probably not the Attorney General, whatever her name is, Bondi.
Pam Bondi.
Yeah, but maybe she shouldn't have been bragging about it quite. So maybe they should have had that chit chat before she went on TV and said, "I got the files right on my desk. This
is one of the problems for MAGA, isn't it, Anne? Because they all trumpeted this as like their big reveal against the Democrats, and now they are the ones that are not releasing it.
If you want smart, fearless commentary on the craziest things happening in media, politics, and online culture, you'll love the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, hosted by Brad Palumbo, an independent journalist who calls it like it is. The podcast covers viral madness from across the political and cultural spectrum, and no one's safe. He goes after Gen Z TikTok scammers and far-right grifters. He'll take apart progressive media darlings and MAGA influencers, all from a place of sharp moderation, not blind loyalty. Think of it like TRIGGERnometry's younger American cousin. Same instinct for cutting through the noise, same appetite for the stories everyone else is too scared or too biased to cover. If you like your commentary honest, sharp, and entirely uncancelable, find Brad vs. Everyone on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Did you know that saffron has been shown in human studies to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up without grogginess? That's what makes Evening Being by Verso so interesting. Most saffron supplements don't work because they contain cheap, unstandardized saffron, often cut with fillers or low-potency extracts. Evening Being contains only the most researched bioavailable extracts available. Paired with other clinically studied ingredients, drinking Evening Being of an evening promotes relaxation and deep, uninterrupted sleep. Check it out at ver.so. Evening Being customers soon become fanatics. Here are some of the things people are saying. Dennis said, "I've had trouble sleeping for years and Evening Being is the only thing that keeps me asleep at night." And David wrote, "I was pleasantly surprised how effective this was in helping me sleep through the night." Click the link in the description or head over to ver.so and use the code TRIGGER at checkout to save 15% on your first order.
I wouldn't say they right-wingers because the MAGA base is, I think, still pretty ginned up about it. Maybe not the ones with podcasts. I'm ginned up about it. Let me say, I don't think Trump had sex with underage girls. I also don't think he had sex with that porn star, and I don't think he assaulted that woman in Bergdorf Goodman. I think those are preposterous claims. Not that I'm saying he's, above board, total gentleman. Not going that far. I think his donors, I mean, it clearly was, I think I may write about, this is my column this week. Oh, by the way, you can read my column, see my video on my Substack. Unsafe and Coulter.substack.com. That's what I meant to mention. I'm really bad at promoting myself.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, you wouldn't just randomly slip in a link to your Substack in the middle of a podcast with no reference for it whatsoever.
Well, the column will show up right in your inbox, and it's almost entirely free. But I think I may write about, this is about the Epstein thing. Yeah. There was an article in the New York Times, or columnist in the New York Times, this weekend by their in-house conservative, reminding me why I never read him. But the headline was about conspiracy theories, and I have a minor interest in conspiracy theories. I usually hate them because what liberals do, they're doing right in front of us. They're hiding nothing. There's no man behind the curtain. But of course, there are a lot of true things that are dismissed as conspiracy theories. There are conspiracies. Sometimes it's not a theory. But anyway, his article was on conspiracy theories, and he gets to the Epstein thing, and it's Ross Douthit, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, big papist. And it is perhaps the dumbest column I've ever read. So he does this thing, which a lot of pundits do in New York. I don't know if they do it here, but it's all, they're going to be, you know, the reasonable middle ground. Both the right wing is wrong and the left wing is wrong. But here, I'm going to come out right down the middle. Let me tell you the reasonable position. And each case, his, quote, reasonable position is factually false, is absurd, is compared to the left-wing position, it's stupider than that. So on Epstein, I'll just mention this one quickly. The right-wingers say that Jeffrey Epstein was running some sort of sex ring for the rich and powerful. That's a fact. No, we know that. We have court documents. We have witness statements. We have the girls saying that Jeffrey made them have sex with his friends. We have that guy, what's his name, the head of the modeling agency in France who's been accused. We have Leon Black in the United States. We have the head of well, how about Prince Andrew? That's a fact. So don't call that a right-wing conspiracy theory. And then, by the way, he ends up the column attacking the right and the left on conspiracy theories by telling us how he believes in UFOs.
But, so, I mean, what is the impact on the MAGA base? Do you think that this is a mortal blow, or do you think this is just something Trump is going to ride out? Because if you take the approach of what Trump drain the swamp. This is the ultimate drain the swamp moment. This is the great reveal. This is Trump showing the corruption, deceit, and perversion behind the curtain.
Yes. Yes. I hope it remains a thorn in his side. I mean, when you say the mortal blow, what precisely does that mean? He's not going to be impeached over it. Because the Democrats definitely don't want it out.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump may have his own reasons. Which are his donors. I think they don't want him to release it. I don't think he's in the files having sex with a 14-year-old girl. I think it's his donors who don't want it out. They're rich and powerful people. I think, but as long as it remains a thorn in his side, and in fact, I think this is part of the reason I need to keep writing about it, because since he has totally betrayed the MAGA base, and worse than that, attacked them and called them, for people who want the Epstein files out, called them idiots and saying, I don't want your support. This is his base. I mean, I've never seen him make such a mistake with his base. He really does think he's untouchable.
But isn't he though, Anne? Because look at the Iran thing, right? There were a lot of people there were some people who had principled opposition. Other people were just having a full-blown meltdown, calling for him to be impeached. Tucker Carlson went apeshit, all these Candace Owenses and all these other people, right? He stared them all down, proven ultimately completely correct on the decision he made. I would argue. The World War III predictions didn't materialize.
The U.S. involvement didn't materialize. I say it's because we put pressure on him not to let it materialize.
I think that's a very tenuous claim to make personally, but that's fine. My point is something else, which is he saw off the critics and came out on top. That's ultimately what happened.
Only because he moved on. We stopped obsessing with Iran. I mean, part of it is, at least from my perspective, it's not just that we're getting involved, literally sending troops in. And again, he didn't end the war in Afghanistan. I'm sick of hearing about it. I don't want to turn on my TV and, wither Iran and this leader and that leader and Shia and Sunni. Can we get back to my country for 10 minutes here? What's going on our border? Can we care about my country? No, we always have to be fixated on whether the Middle East and Iran and Iraq and Israel and the Palestinians and how about Ukraine and Russia? Meanwhile, on our border, Mexicans are killing nearly 100,000 Americans a year with the fentanyl. Oh, by the way, one thing I love about London, no pot. You can't walk 10 yards in New York City without reeking of marijuana. It's the most disgusting thing imaginable. So go London.
You really haven't traveled widely in London.
I'll take you to Brixton, and it'll be right up your street.
Really?
Yeah, there's plenty of pot in London.
Well, they shouldn't do it. It's very bad for you.
Yeah.
What I'm asking, well, it's interesting you mentioned, I know a lot of Americans feel that way about putting America first, which is totally understandable. Every country should put.
And that was his motto.
Right. But now that he has secured the border, I mean, one of the interesting things is, of course, he came in on the promise of ending the conflict in Ukraine.
In one day.
In one day. I never thought that was particularly likely to happen, and it hasn't happened. Likewise with Israel and Gaza, that hasn't been settled yet. Why do you think that is?
Well, you may not have noticed this. Trump is an exaggerator.
Yeah, yeah. I've got glimpses of that here every now and again.
You don't really take it to the bank. Well, in the case of Russia, I mean, Putin just. I've noticed Ukraine is a much bigger issue over here than it is in America. It is over and done in America. Nobody cares. They're sick of spending money. It's going into this a pit. And people keep dying. People would like it just to end. I think Putin realizes, and by the way, he's not Hitler. He's not going to march into Poland. He definitely wants all of Ukraine. It is historically part of Russia. I am not defending him. He invaded the country. Shouldn't have done that. But that's what he wants. He's made it very clear.
Not all of Ukraine is historically part of Russia, but fine. I'm from Russia, so.
Where did the word for Ukraine come from?
It means borderland.
There's a Russian word, and it was something like Ukraine or something. I'm talking
Kraina, but that's a Ukrainian word. It means borderland. So Western Ukraine used to be part of Poland. Eastern Ukraine was part of Russia, and most of southern Ukraine.
Okay, I'm not believing you, but we'll.
You're not believing?
No.
Why not? What do you mean you're not believing me?
I want to go look it up.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. So anyway, he wants it all.
He does.
And England and Spain, or France and Germany aren't going to be funding Ukraine the way the U.S. was. The U.S. does not want to keep funding Ukraine, so I think Putin just sees his opportunity. He's going to keep on going. And Trump did not expect that. He thought, let's end it. A lot of Russians are being killed. Now I think he's just moved on and doesn't care. So that's it with that one. And wait, what were we on the MAGA? Oh, Epstein. So as long as it's a thorn in his side, he does keep giving us a lot of good stuff to try to distract the MAGA base. I mean, it's stepped up quite a bit. I've barely been keeping up with U.S. news, but I've been reading, sort of skimming the New York Times every day. And every day it's another Christmas gift to the MAGA base.
Like, how do you mean? What do you mean by a Christmas gift?
What was the one? There was a really good one today. Oh, yeah. Way less spending on global warming. That has basically just been slashed from the government. So that's today. Yesterday, okay, maybe I won't do it chronologically day by day. The other one was, and I'm shocked that no other Republican president has done this, the national parks and monuments have to take out all the anti-American crap. And the New York Times trying to scare its readers into, this massive, horrible censorship, and we're losing our history. They had an article of the stuff that's being taken out. So this is supposed to make the average reader think, oh my gosh, how can they take that out? And everyone it makes your head explode. I can't believe they had this in a national park. Anything about it, there was some horse. Maybe it was the little horses in South Carolina or something, but there's a description of little horses. And of course, climate change has made their habitat more difficult. Every single hero in the United States, you need a full page on what the guy thought of slavery. John Muir, the father of our national parks. You guys probably, he was a big naturalist, big hero. Our national parks are beautiful. You have much more beautiful buildings. But boy, we have beautiful national parks. His is said mean things about, was it even blacks? It was Indians, our Indians, American Indians, and somebody else. Maybe it was just Indians. By the Liberty Bell. There was something about, now at the time, there were a lot of enslaved people. Can you please just give the history without everything being a reminder of slavery? So, okay, that's one thing. Those are all going to be removed. Can't believe a Republican president hasn't done this before now. There's another one this week. Anyway, it's things like that you probably don't care about.
No. I find it interesting because the way he's maneuvering himself. The thing that I've always found very interesting, I actually found it quite annoying, if I'm being honest, is the way that Republicans or nobody on the right who preached about corruption and the corruption that in the Biden administration, which there was a lot of, and we don't need to go into it because we all know what it was. Mm-hmm. Yet when Trump releases his meme coin, which to me is just outrageous, everybody's like, oh, that's fine. I'm like, is it?
Can't disagree with you. I mean, it's hilarious. I think this is the most corrupt presidency in U.S. history with the money they are raking in with the NFTs and the meme coin. I mean, it is so blatant. It's right in front of our eyes. And the funny thing about I don't care as long as we get a wall and mass deportations. If I have not made that clear, I don't care about anything but saving the country. We'll deal with, future presidents being corrupt. I mean, it's corrupt in the sense that I should probably modify what I just said. It's corrupt in the sense that he's using the presidency to rake in so much money, which I believe is technically an ethics violation, but he isn't.
Technically. Sounds like an ethics violation to me.
But I think it's better than, for example, not releasing the Epstein files because in a trade-off with his donors. Okay, give me $100 million and I won't release them. I mean, that hasn't come to light, but I'm just saying that right now he is just, as far as we know, just raking in the money to benefit himself and his family. He is pushing the MAGA policies, and I mean, I thought this, and I think I said it publicly. I think on my Substack with Mickey Kaus, because he asked me, now, if you liked Joe Biden's policies, would you care about this Hunter Biden stuff? And we both agreed that I think most Americans wouldn't care if you liked the policies. Well, because that was another one, I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt, that was just to benefit the Biden family.
Okay. See, my pushback to that is corruption is a cancer. And if you let it spread unchecked and you do not challenge it, it permeates into every facet of society, and society eventually collapses, which is what I've seen in Venezuela.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. I think the most corrupt, actually. Yeah, Venezuela.
Congratulations.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Murder capital of the world as well. Perfect. But so when I find what you're saying, Anne, as a Republican and as a conservative, quite shocking, if I'm being honest, because if we don't challenge corruption at the helm and the highest possible echelon, you're basically giving it a free pass, aren't you?
No, I agree with that in principle, and you're totally nailing me on it, and I'm probably blushing now. But our country is so much further gone than yours is. I thought it when I wrote Adios America in 2015 about immigration, not just illegal immigration, all immigration. Since 1970, we have been hauling in the third world hand over fist. I mean, 90% of our legal immigrants are from the third world. Yeah, try to immigrate from Western Europe. It was a specific design by the Democrats to change the country more in their favor, and happened to wreck the country at the same time. We're down to, I mean, this is something else that we can look up and get the actual number on. We're down to, from like 1620 up until 1970, the country was 80 to 90% white, 10 to 20% black. Those are foundational Americans, and the 1970 population overwhelmingly traced its ancestry back to colonial times. We're now down to, it's about 13% black, so that hasn't changed that much. We're now down to, I think, around 57% white Americans. And by the way, they include a lot of Hispanics in white. And people always talk about, and I'm sorry, but The president of Singapore was right. People do vote their ethnicity. The Democrats were right. Bringing in third world immigrants got them a lot of votes. Maybe we can change in the future. Maybe it takes about 100 years.
Wait, didn't Hispanics break for Trump this
Nope.
election?
Nope.
No?
Big fat lie. They went a little bit more for the Republican. No, it's like the rate of growth in the government.
Yeah.
No, it was a huge cut. Rate of growth. No.
What was it? What was the breakdown? I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was more than usual, and there were a few areas where it seemed to matter. I forget what it was, but it was absolutely not a majority. It was a big move. I think Hispanic men might have slightly made it.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, white males between the ages of 18 and 25 are like 90% Trump voters. No, that's a good demographic for us. So people always talk about, and maybe it's probably the same here, but how politics will swing. There's a pendulum back and forth. And, it'll seem like Republicans totally on the upswing. Well, you get, FDR. Liberal. Then we got Reagan. Seems like they're going to be around forever. Then Obama. Oh my gosh, Republican Party is finished. And it seems to swing back and forth. But I mean, in the 1950s, which I wrote about with the communist stuff and Alger Hiss and Joe McCarthy. If I had lived in those times, I would have thought the country's over. Our government is streaming with spies for Stalin. That would have looked pretty bad to me. And then, the Alger Hiss, not Alger Hiss, Whitaker Chambers said, I'm moving from the Communist Party to the side of truth and God, and I'm moving from the winning side to the losing side. He's kind of a pessimistic fellow. But no, in the end, the losing side won. So you would think you'd have, more hope that you do have the pendulum swing and it as crazy as it gets. But that was with a different population. Reagan wouldn't win 2 landslides now with the new demographics. Look at California for your future, America. California gave us, until Trump, our 2 greatest Republican presidents, Richard Nixon and Donald Trump. You can't get elected dog catcher in that state anymore without being a Democrat, and far left progressive Democrat. I met a girl. I hope she doesn't listen to this because she really annoyed me. Here in London, I sat next to her at a dinner, and she's, big social conservative. I'm big social conservative. I'm pro-life. I'm the whole 9 yards. But she was saying that, no, she's not worried about immigration because the third worlders, the Mexicans and the Muslim, they're voting against trans and they're against abortion. And I said, okay, go to California and get your pro-life bill through. And then I'll say it can be done. Yeah, they're Catholics that are technically anti-abortion, but they don't vote on it. They vote for government benefits.
So is that the real reason why you are? It's because the statement that people always say with America is that it's a nation of immigrants.
That's complete bullshit. It is used to destroy our country. It is not a nation of immigrants. It was invented by liberals to help destroy our country. It is a nation of British settlers. Thank you very much. And it remained a country of, Dutch. They didn't settle. They were more traders, whereas thank God for England's primogeniture law, where the firstborn son gets everything, which I guess you have to do on a small little island or states get broken up. But because of that, you have all these really smart second and third born sons, and they're just SOL. You have the smart girls and they don't get anything either. So we got a lot of the really, really smart British people who came over and founded what King George called that Presbyterian War. The country was overwhelmingly British, Presbyterian. You had the Dutch in New York, but like I say, they were traders. And it's an example of immigration overwhelming the Dutch. And so many British came in that the Dutch sort of lost their influence, but a lot of stuff is named after them, very important. Then I think, fair number of Germans came over. But
aren't there more Germans, though? This is what I have been...
Over time, yeah. And they used to be the largest ethnic group, though I think that's a little bit fake because people who are descended from the British don't call themselves, I'm an English immigrant. I mean, like me, I just call myself an American.
Right.
But, and isn't the point that people are trying to make, by the way, people say this about Britain, Britain's a nation of immigrants, and that actually is
Oh, it's enraging.
That is silly. And I've done articles on my Substack and videos about it. But with America, isn't what people mean is that everyone who currently lives in America came from somewhere else. So it's less perhaps abnormal or surprising that more people are coming from somewhere else to America. Like, I've traveled in America, I've probably been to at least half of the states. My sense was always that Americans are much more pro-immigration than British people are. They're very against...
Not anymore.
They're very against illegal immigration, as I think they're right to be. But I don't get the sense that they're not pro-immigration. Do you see what I mean? Like
Yes. Point one, the idea that, and absolutely you travel, and it's, whoa, is it not? We're majority white is barely hanging on by its fingernail. So yes, it's happened. But when you say nation of immigrants, it sounds like, this is like a founding principle. No, this is how Teddy Kennedy and the Democrats changed the country beginning in 1970. So, I mean, you could take a really expensive bottle of wine and pour vinegar in it, and then say, "This wine sucks. It's a bottle of vinegar." Well, no, it wasn't. It was a bottle of wine. You poured vinegar in it, and that doesn't make it a bottle of vinegar. And you are absolutely right, much to my absolute blinding fury, that yes, they distinguish between legal immigrants, as Trump says. We love legal immigrants, just not illegal immigrants. And I mean, that was a big part of my book, Adios America. It wasn't about illegal immigrants. It's about immigrants. What they mean when they say this, I know this is what they mean. Pre-1970 immigrants and post-1970 immigrants, because they're thinking of, I mean, the immigrants that came end of the 18th century, end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. No, they were fantastic. Those were all still Western Europeans. So a lot of them, that's only a few generations back. So a lot of them are thinking of, their grandparents who came from Ireland or Germany or Italy. That's who they're thinking of when they say legal immigrants. They don't realize that the only difference Biden made a joke of it by saying, okay, illegal immigrants massing at our border, peasants with no skills, inability to speak English, who are instantly going to go on welfare, mug us, kill us, drive drunk, rape little girls. No, you can come in legally. Biden just did that. So they're legal immigrants. It's the same people. It's about 85% third world. And yes, we can take people from anywhere and assimilate them. But for one thing, assimilation is a bad word now. They act like, it's hate speech to try to assimilate people. They live in their little, they're basically creating their own ghettos within the United States. Up in Dearborn, Michigan, they have signs in Arabic. And, I like a lot of them. My senator was from Michigan, but that's crazy. In Minnesota, all the Somalians, they absolutely only vote for a Somalian. The U.S. representative from that area, Ilhan Omar, she gives speeches. You see this huge mass of Somalians, and she's saying, "I'm here to represent the Somalian people." You're supposed to be representing America now. And that's a big problem with bringing in, you can't bring them in a tidal wave like that. You have to bring them in bit by bit, get them accustomed to American ways, which is the way of the WASP.
All right, people, it's trivia time. Financial trivia, to be exact. Do you know what retirement asset grew the most in the first 6 months of President Trump's second term? Many of you probably guessed the stock market was the best, since what's backing the most retirement accounts in America today is that. But from January 21st through July 21st, the Dow Jones grew less than 1%. What about Bitcoin? President Trump loves Bitcoin, so it must have performed well, right? Well, it did. It grew nearly 15%, an impressive 6-month investment. But it's not the number one. The heavyweight champion was, wait for it, gold and silver. Gold and silver are considered to be safe haven investments, so many of you will be surprised to learn they both grew by a whopping 25% in President Trump's first 6 months. 25% in 6 months. Not bad for safe haven investments. Our partners, Augusta Precious Metals, specializes in helping Americans move wealth and retirement into self-directed IRAs backed by physical precious metals like gold and silver. They are consistently scored as the most trusted gold IRA company by major financial publications, and they enjoy an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. In a world where governments print money and rack up debt like it's going out of fashion, I like assets you can hold in your hand. That's why I've always taken steps to secure my family's future with gold. If you have over $100,000 in your current IRA, 401k or other retirement account, visit triggergold.com, that's triggergold.com, to learn how Augusta Precious Metals can become your lifelong self-directed IRA partner. Every week we sit down with some of the sharpest minds out there, and our team have to be just as sharp, extracting all the key points so that we can produce world-class content in super quick time.
Which is why we use Plord to do the heavy lifting. Plord is a compact device that records, transcribes, and even summarizes our conversations, all in real time. It's built on GPT 4.0 and Claude 3.7, so the summaries are intelligent, highlights, decisions, key insights, no fluff.
The Ask AI feature? Total game changer. We can ask it, what did Stephen Fry say about speech codes? And it finds a clip and summary instantly.
It even recognizes our voices. Once you label them, it knows who's speaking across all your future recordings. Whether you're running interviews, meetings, lectures, or you just want to stay organized, Plord will save you hours.
And right now, you can get 10% off your device if you scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description and use our code TRIGGER. Sure. But I guess the reason I'm asking, I'm a first-generation immigrant to this country, and I've always been hugely in favor of really strong assimilation policies, right? But didn't you have this controversial moment with Vivek, who I think you'd agree is smart and has assimilated, where you said you wouldn't vote for him because he's Indian?
Yeah, for president. I didn't say I wouldn't vote for him. I said he could be, senator. He's running for Senate now.
Why can't he was born in America, right?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you vote for him for president?
Okay, look up all the presidents of India. Have they ever had a non-Indian president? Why, no, they haven't. Has Israel ever had a non-Israeli president? Why is my country the only country that is supposed to have, anybody can run our country?
Had an Indian prime minister.
Yeah, I don't think it went that well. And that was fairly recent.
It was fairly recent, and it didn't go well, but it wasn't because he was Indian.
Okay,
it's because his party is useless.
I wouldn't have voted for him because he's Indian. I think, and by the way, we have a natural-born citizen clause for that. I mean, there is, as I explained to Vivek in his podcast, it really started off with a bang on that one. It was a rash decision at the last minute. All my friends oppose, and I think a lot of you oppose Vivek because they think of him as a scam artist and a con man. And I was thinking, well, I can't say that to him. I wouldn't vote for him because he's Indian. Let's throw that one out. But I explained this to him at the time. There's a reason we have the natural-born citizen clause for president. There is an idea, and I think people feel it even more now, because of the massive immigrants from very, very different cultures. America, like Britain, like most countries, I guess, it has a very distinctive culture. We are the freest country in the world. Free speech is in our bones. The right to bear arms is in our bones. And when polls are taken, no matter how nice they are, immigrants overwhelmingly do not support free speech and gun rights. I mean, those are just two examples.
Doesn't Vivek support free speech and gun rights?
The point is still the same, and that is there is the idea that over generations, it's in your bones, this is in your blood, you would die for this country. It's just second nature to believe in the right to bear arms. And yeah, immigrants can pick this up. Look, I told them I'd vote for his kids if they married an American.
But he is an American, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, but he's an Indian American. He is a second-generation immigrant.
Okay, but what the rule about the natural? So
I'm using
maybe
that
I'm
as an
confused.
analogy. I'm not. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had to say that. I could have just said you're not natural born. Ted Cruz isn't natural born. I wouldn't have to explain. This is an analogy that it matters how deep your connection is to a very distinctive culture.
But you said that's because there's certain things that are embedded in the culture, like being in favor of the First Amendment, being in favor of the Second. But Vivek is in favor of all those things, and you still wouldn't.
Well, he says that. I want it in their bones. I want the wives to believe it. I want it generation after generation after generation. I don't want it to have to be something they need to study and figure out this is what they're supposed to say about it.
But aren't there loads of white Americans who don't believe in either of those amendments?
Sure.
But you would...
A lot? No, that's not true. No. Aren't there a lot? No. The answer is no, no, no. The people who support...
There's a lot of white Californians who don't believe in either of those amendments.
Yeah, and a majority do. Right. And a majority of no other ethnic group does. And a majority of no other ethnic group does.
But surely, wouldn't the position be, Anne, is to take everybody on their own individual merits? Isn't that just the way
Does everybody get to be president?
if you're born in the country and you're an American citizen, then you should have the chance, shouldn't you? Isn't that the American dream?
Tell Netanyahu. Tell the Israelis. As soon as they put in a president who's not an Israeli, I will say you guys are absolutely right. Judge people on their own.
But he isn't an American. He is an American. It's not like he's just come over and then assumed the mantles.
There are Muslim Israelis.
Right, and they serve in the Supreme Court and they can be elected president.
They won't be elected president.
Well, they can be.
Well, okay, but I'm not saying there should be a constitutional amendment. I say I won't vote for that person. And you know damn well Israelis are not voting for a Muslim president because they don't want to, just as Anne doesn't want to.
Which is, look, I mean, that is fair, Anne. If you don't want to, you don't want to. I think the question that I want to ask, therefore, is MAGA just a one-term thing? Is this just going to be a one-term flash in the pan built around the cult of Trump? Or is this going to be something longer lasting?
Not a chance that it will be one term. When I describe the MAGA cult, I don't know what percentage of Trump voters just like that the way he talks, like I say, his personality as opposed to his policies. But a lot of people care about the policies, and my proof of that is 2016 was at least the third time Donald Trump ran for president. This is the first time he talked about immigration, and swept the primaries. And by the way, if you look, I mean, I described this in Trump We Trust. You look at that opening speech coming down the escalator, he talked about a lot of stuff. The Mexican rapist thing was like 8% of the opening speech. It could have been about Obamacare. It could have been about guns. It could have been about...
I mean, those words do tend to stand out.
I think a lot of them. I think you can find a lot of them that stand out. When attacking Jeb Bush, saying your father lied us into war. The reason, I mean, he was lucky. The entire media, the entire Republican Party, the entire Democratic Party, I mean, of the elites, opposed him on that. But the people were for him on that. So the more the media attacked him, the more they were doing his PR for him by advertising his single most popular policy. And even though it didn't take bravery, it took, not being a moron to start pick up the popular policy. It made him look brave. So no, immigration. And when he got elected this time, New York Times ran a poll, and there were a million polls showing the same thing, but I'm saying this is a statement against interest because the New York Times is very liberal. They ran a big poll. Most Americans, a majority, didn't like his personality, didn't like him personally, but they overwhelmingly supported him on immigration, expressly mass deportations. It's a popular issue. Even the Republicans like Rubio, who pushed an amnesty and was, the most beloved Republican over at Fox News, where they love amnesty. Every Republican, when Trump ran in 2016, every Republican supported amnesty. At the very end, Cruz the closest to him, I'd say, ideologically flipped. Now all of them, amazingly, Rubio, whom I hated for being this beloved amnesty pusher, man, he sounds like Adios America now. he could be quoting straight from my book. So Republicans have flipped. They've figured it out. You know what I bet it will be like? I hope this doesn't end up being a problem. So Reagan runs on tax cuts. Tax is the highest tax rate back then. This may be nothing to you guys, but it was like 78%.
That's quite a lot to us.
I mean, that's for each dollar above a certain amount, but still.
Wow. But that's a huge amount.
78%. So he runs on cutting taxes, and unlike Trump's first term, he kept his promises, slashes taxes. Now, since then, my idiot Republican Party keeps running on cutting taxes, but the only difference in a Republican president and a Democrat president on taxes, and look, I'm for tax cuts, it's always good, but it's like 34% versus 39%. It's not up to 50%, 60%, 78%. So Reagan won the argument on that. I think, if anything, we would see the Democrats coming around on immigration, as some of the liberal parties in Europe have done in order to win.
Really? So you think, like, for instance, Gavin Newsom would go out and talk about limiting I mean, he's got no integrity and he will do whatever it takes to win. So actually, you've made my argument for me. Yeah, fair. Yeah. But I just see the Dems as being so ideologically compromised. Like, they know what they need to do.
Do they?
But the way...
Do they? Do they?
I see the Dems as being like Jehovah's Witnesses. They know that they need to take the blood transfusion in order to save themselves, but they can't do it for Bridget.
Yeah, but they've got principles. They've got, they've got a greater purpose in life, right? Yeah. And their purpose is, to save the poor illegal immigrants and the trans kids and whatever, right?
Yeah.
They can't go back on that. Just like the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
I think they can. I don't know that they will. It's hard to imagine right now, I admit it. But there are two reasons I think they can. Is one, until they notice that the post-1970 immigrants were voting for them, the lot of Democrats were as tough as I am on immigration. Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader for a while, Democrat from Nevada, he gave a blistering speech on anchor babies. Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, both from California, absolutely hardcore on immigration because it was hitting California first.
Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama. I have a whole chapter in my book basically listing left-wing American politicians talking about immigration.
Yes.
And they were to the right of Donald Trump, all of them.
Yes. Yes, Bernie Sanders.
Well, to the right of 2016 Trump.
Right, and Bernie Sanders, when he ran in 2016,
totally. He said it drives down American workers' wages.
Which it does.
Which it does.
And then he flipped.
Yeah. Because
he went back to the mothership, and no, they're voting for us. But okay, so that's one point. They have believed
But the difference is now the people are different. Ilhan Omar and AOC are never going to come out against immigration.
True. So the immigrants won't. But the other Democrats, the reason they might is, to take Ilhan Omar as an example, so the mayor of Minneapolis, total leftist freak boy. He was the one, you may have seen this, weeping like a baby in front of George Floyd's gold casket.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Just an absolute soy boy pussy on this. Well, guess what? They just had the Democratic primary, and he lost to a Somali. AOC took the place, and I wrote about this in, maybe I was just arguing with my producers. Anyway, I read my own books on audiobook, and I'm sitting in the studio arguing with the producer and his daughter, I guess during our lunch break. I think it came up in one of my books, that this is the end of the white Democrats. You guys are so screwed. It's over. And there was this, I think his name was Thomas Crowley, long time Irish have dominated the Democratic Party, congressman, and AOC runs, and it was a wipeout. So he isn't the only one. Democrats are losing their positions. They made a slight miscalculation. We'll bring in all these third worlders and they'll vote for us. It never occurred to them that the third worlders might want to run for office, and they block vote for their ethnicity. So ha, 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 Democrats.
The one thing that's interesting with the Democrats is looking at what's happened in New York with Mamdani, is that his name?
It's very hard to pronounce because in English, there's no word that has an M followed by a D. It's hard for your mouth to say it anyway, but it's Mamdani.
Okay, so Mamdani. Because that looks to me, and we're seeing the same type of rhetoric being used over here, which is this very hardcore, very leftist, old school leftist, I would say, which isn't about identity politics. It's going right down to the argument of economics. It's talking about billionaires. It's talking about us and them. It's talking about inequality. Would it not be smart for the Democrats to actually attack using that type of policy and that type of rhetoric?
Yes, but only in places like New York. It will not work out in America. The working class is definitely done with the Democrats. I think it works in New York, and that's a very smart point, because the people actually voting for Mamdani aren't the poor. It's the rich elites. They're totally down with the Communist Manifesto.
So you say it's only going to be the rich elites who are going to be who are susceptible to voting for that particular type of narrative?
Well, blacks in New York, for example, overwhelmingly voted for Cuomo, and he's a complete horse's ass. So they had to overcome a lot to vote for him.
That's really interesting. So you don't see that as being because in the UK, that narrative, as we see with the cost of living crisis, as we see,
Everything's a crisis in Britain. Whenever there's any kind of problem, it's a crisis.
Exactly.
Cost of living crisis, housing crisis, energy crisis, climate crisis,
welfare crisis,
border crisis. Everything is a crisis.
So essentially, maybe that taps more into the kind of the British mind, but it seems more and more that over here, that kind of those talking points and that rhetoric is becoming normalized. But you don't see that as being more an issue in the United States.
No, that's a really smart point, and I think it is a difference between us and not only England, but all these European countries where the far left, the communist left, they actually did have the working class voting for them, and I'm pretty sure that's true of labor over here. Oh, yeah, that's never been true in the U.S. Reagan, it was a hard hat revolution when Nixon was president, and you had all the anti-war protesters and anti-Nixon protesters, even though he's the one who ended the war. It was the hard hats who came out into New York City and beat up the hippies. And one Mayor Lindsay, very left-wing mayor of New York. Damn, I forget who it was. Some lefty died, and he put the flag at half-mast, and the hard hat guys climbed up the flagpole and raised it to the top of the mast. They have not been putting up with this nonsense for a long time, and in fact, one of my now conservative friends was a lefty in the 60s, and with some cult-like groups, and their objective was to get the working class to support the left wing, because it had not happened before in the U.S. And he says, I went in to change the working class, and they changed me, and he became a huge Reaganite right winger. But our working class is not left wing.
Are you hopeful for the future of America? Because when we were talking on Saturday, you showed more optimism for the UK, which I found baffling, if I'm being honest.
That's tourist eyes, mate. That's what that is. That's tourist eyes. Sorry, Anne. That's tourist eyes.
No, I am more optimistic for you guys. I mean, I wish you could get Farage in a little sooner. This 4-year thing is really annoying. When I wrote Adios America I wrote it in 2015. And back then I thought, this country is so over, but maybe we have a 10% chance of saving it. And it's my country. I love it. It's worth writing this book. And then thank God Trump read it and boy, that Mexican rapist stuff is that all over. Adios, America. And the day he was inaugurated, I thought I was emailing with Stephen Miller and the other few simpatico people saying, suddenly our hope has gone from 10% to 90% to save the country. And then we got term one and he didn't do anything. And I went, down. And also Biden brought in 20 million new illegal aliens. We already had about 40 million. What are the chances now? I don't know. Let's see if Trump and the other Republicans can keep their promises, but I think you guys are way better off. You just have to do the right stuff, like elect Farage.
Well, I think the problem is you say do the right stuff. I look at Keir Starmer, I don't think that's going to happen. And he's going to be in power for 4 years. Now, if he's actually going to make it through those 4 years, I think it's a big question.
Even though we do tend to have very rigid rules, there could be an earlier election. It depends on what happens.
That would be fantastic.
And why do you like Farage so much?
Well, he's the leader of Brexit. He's been responsible for a long time. I went to one of his press conferences this week, and he's very good on his feet. Had great answers for everything. Also very good on free speech. With that, he was attacking that Safety Act, which instantly started showing up in my internet feed, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. You're the mother country. You're supposed to believe in free speech. But wait, how about, wasn't Trump's advice to Starmer hilarious? He's telling him basically to do everything Farage is recommending.
Yeah. I mean, and then he for good measure, he gave a few swipes against our mayor.
I loved that, but I loved him acting like he's just talking like Starmer is going to take it. You got to cut off the boats. You send them home. In the Safety Act, cut taxes, as if he's just, putting his arm around him, giving him some good brotherly advice. Do you know what you're talking to?
I'm sure Starmer will listen very carefully. Yeah. Take it under advisement.
Yeah. Before Anne answers the final question at the end of the interview, make sure to head over to our Substack. The link is in the description, where you'll be able to see this.
You're the only public figure I've seen point out on Bill Maher's show that when the media doesn't announce a suspect's race in the headline, we know the suspect is not white. This trend is so obvious and so racist. Why has no one else spoken out about it?
Do you think history will come to see Elon Musk as a tragic patriot?
What is your prediction for the candidates in the 2028 race?
JD, definitely JD.
And on the Democrat?
Oh my gosh, they are so screwed.
And we're going to head over to our Substack in a second where our audience get to ask you their questions. You've requested questions with the C word against you, so we'll do as many of those as we can.
Well, I was just saying you don't need to edit them.
Well, we certainly won't, if there are any. But before we head on over there, what's the one thing we're not talking about that we should be?
Well, we covered probably enough to bore your audience, my number one topic the most. And then we covered my second most favorite topic, Epstein.
It doesn't have to be politics, it can be absolutely anything.
Oh, there's Sydney Sweeney. That's fantastic.
I was asking my guys earlier today, because I've not been very well last week. I've taken a week off the internet mainly. And then I came back and basically, explain this to me, right? What happened is this jeans company put a blonde girl with big tits
Not exactly
in an ad.
That. I think you're
doing her a disservice.
Demeaning it. She's a pretty all-American girl.
That's what I'm saying. Great. I'm all in favor of that.
But I don't think it's the big tits.
I mean,
that's a very female perspective. Yeah. But anyway,
let's be honest. The boobs do play a massive part of it.
Okay.
Let's not zero in on the tits.
Not if she had Kamala Harris's face.
I was unnecessarily crass. They put an attractive blue-eyed blonde girl on a jeans ad, and they said she's got great jeans, playing on the word jeans, and everyone said they're Nazis. Is that what happened?
Yep. No, not everyone. So moderate and normal Democratic Party.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't even understand the leap of logic exactly. How is being blonde and blue-eyed? I mean, you're... Nah, I see where they're going.
Exactly. Well, what's funny, I'm doubly, quadruply funny about this is basically since George Floyd, there have been no blonde models, zero. Every TV commercial, every magazine commercial, it's just black, black, blackety black, 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 black. And, you know, it's 13% of the population. They're just begging people to say, what the F? So they can say, oh, does that offend you? No, but it's weird. It's just weird to take, I mean, why not have, you know, every ad with a one-legged man? It's just weird that they're obsessed with this. And now for the first time, and if they would have someone who wasn't, you know, obviously black, it would have to be this neutral, could be Hispanic, could
Yeah,
be
there's this like
Asian,
racially ambiguous category now. That's
but
the one
not
that...
blonde.
Yeah, I see.
Cannot be blonde.
Yeah, but why does that make them Nazis? Like, I don't get it.
Because the Democratic Party learned so much from the 2024
Yeah,
election.
they really haven't they?
Let's try to be normal. We're
All right,
trying. We're trying.
let's head over to Substack where our audience are going to call Ann names. See you there.
Which is a better media strategy and odds of success for the Trump administration over the Russiagate probe? To target Hillary alone, or Hillary with Obama, Brennan and Comey, or another variation of the major players? And who would you target?